back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is a breakdown of episode 6 of Invincible. This is the turning point for this season, honestly, the series and all. The Viltrumites versus everyone. We're preparing the coalition for battle, Mark is barely surviving, and still we hold small moments for Nolan and Oliver to finally rekindle everything. And newsflash, Nolan is a bad dad. Surprise, surprise. But with everything that happens in this episode, there's still a lot of details that will ripple throughout the rest of the series beginning in this episode. So let's break down everything, and of course we'll include some of the comic connections and Easter eggs. But first, before we get into it, make sure to check out the latest and greatest in New Rockstars merch. Grab a hoodie or a tee or a hat of your favorite show or movie and be a rock star out in the wild. Buying a shirt from Nerd Ride is the best way to support the channel, and guess what? We have Invincible merch! Woo! Look at this shirt. This shirt's sick as hell, you guys. Don't you want to wear Invincible merch? I know you do. And this time, you don't have to be a Viltrumite. You can just rep our best half Viltrumite. Just head to nerdride.shop to pick out one for yourself. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes launching your own website a breeze. All right, now let's get into it. This episode is titled You Look Horrible, which yes, in fact, Mark does look horrible. To be fair, by the end of this episode, everyone will look horrible. And by horrible, I mean horribly dead. Yeah. It opens with Thetis declaring it's time for war, and in the comics, Nolan said to Mark, "It is time, son, you are needed, the time for war is upon us." And this led into an 8-issue comic arc where the remaining Viltrumites fought pretty much everyone else we've seen so far. There are these 6 faces on screens, and in season 2, episode 3, we saw these folks. They're the Council of the Coalition of Planets, or the representatives for the Coalition of Planets. They're also featured in the comics. One includes a representative from Battle Beast's homeworld, which we saw briefly in episode 2 this season. We also see the Gildarian representative. We also learned a little bit about them in episode 2. It cuts to Thragg giving his own speech to the remaining Viltrumites, and even though we know there are fewer than 50 left alive, it still seems like a lot given how strong just one of these psychos are. Then it intercuts between the two groups and shows the difference between the Viltrumites who want vengeance and to show off their strength and consider every other being in the planet to be beneath them, and the former Viltrumite Thetis who emphasized the importance of uniting to end tyranny and cruelty. Between this episode and the flashback that we got in episode 2, we can see how much has changed. Not only are they stronger after the Scourge virus wiped most of them out, but they've upgraded in their style and allegiance. We're reminded of the various weapons that the Coalition has against the Viltrumites, the Sinlock beetles. They consume this poisonous plant that's poisonous to the Viltrumites, and so extracting some of this poison from the beetles, the Coalition scientists put the extract into darts that they can use for the war. We see the Ragnars, they're crazy strong because of the high level of gravity on their planet, and they have razor sharp teeth and claws. And the even more souped up Scourge virus, of course, the original strain wiped out most of the Viltrumites. This, I'm sure, will wipe everyone out. We see the Viltrumite ship, the same one I believe they used last episode during the ambush, and from episode 2's flashback and any flashback we've ever seen of Viltrum, you can see how now it is very much dead and decaying after all of them died. We see the Coalition soldiers in gray uniforms getting into their ships, and it's just kind of funny how everyone's soldiers and ships kind of look similar. And as a reminder, everyone within Telescria are mainly people who have lost their home to Viltrumites, so when they're cheering them off to battle, we see Alan's species, the Unopans, and the one in the center waving we saw in season 1 episode 1 when Nolan was trying to make it look like the Viltrumites were actually helping the world. The battle starts in the skies above Telescria, where the Coalition planet's headquarters is located. Thragg talks to the skull of Argal, the former ruler of the Viltrumites, and this is straight out of the comics. The skull has a big crater in it because Argal was killed by Thetis shoving a bone straight into his skull, so that indent is it's still there. We knew this scene was coming based on recent teasers, and we know a lot of things that are going to be coming because of those recent teasers, and I'll flag another one in a second, but it won't be a spoiler, so don't worry. Nolan puts 3 large stones in front of a stone bed in a crater on the planet, and at first it seems like he's maybe laying Mark to rest, but it's not Mark, it's actually Conquest. And Oliver is not happy about his dad going through all this trouble giving this horrible man a proper funeral, because he did a lot of horrible shit. It's Conquest. Honestly, break him apart, burn him alive, I don't give a fuck, just don't bury him like this. We don't really see many Viltrumites funerals, and I assume that's because they probably perish usually in battle, but in a recent teaser we do see what I think is Argal's funeral, so this may be the closest we've gotten to seeing a Viltrumite funeral so far. All in all, I imagine a Viltrumite funeral is probably somewhat similar to ours, where the fallen are ultimately just laid to rest, unless of course, you know, it's by the millions. In that case, you just string them around your planet like Saturn's rings, because that wasn't a proper funeral. They just threw them into space. The fact that Mark could survive being disemboweled is actually very crazy, and his dad just like shoved the pieces back in there and he's healing. I don't even know if I can show this, but Jesus Christ. But also, to be fair, the amount of times Mark is knocked out is actually a lot, and I'd wager this won't be the last time. Nolan and Oliver are trying to take care of Mark, even though the two of them haven't been on great speaking terms lately. And in this episode, we'll see their relationship start to rekindle, along with some much needed conversations about Oliver and his mom, and what it means to be a real product of Nolan's negligence and mistakes. And this I really love in the story, because realistically, frankly, if I were Oliver, I'd have a lot more words to say to my dad other than the ones that he gave him this episode. And this time, we get a very somber Invincible screen as more pieces crack away into space. April 1st reminds a lot of people that they're pranksters at heart, but for a lot of others, it means Q2 has arrived and they're scrambling to make it better than Q1. If you're the second type, Squarespace can keep you from looking like an April Fool by easily giving your business online presence the glow up it deserves. Squarespace is an all-in-one tool that gives you everything you need to make a website that looks good and does everything you need it to do. Every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions, an auto-generated sitemap, and more, so you show up more often to more people in global search engine results. If you're selling goods or services, Squarespace can help you untangle digital payment platforms with just a few clicks, making it super easy to start receiving payments right away using popular payment methods like Apple Pay, ACH Direct Debit, Klarna, and more. Squarespace's design intelligence tool makes it super easy to get your website looking exactly how you want it to. It combines 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology, so anybody can make a good-looking website with just a few clicks. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to go and launch, go to squarespace.com/newrockstars to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Back with the Viltrumites, they're told to divert to Glacia Prime to intercept the Coalition. He explains that Glacia Prime is a planet that was under the Viltrumite Empire, but the Coalition's trying to free them. We'll see this planet later when Alan and Zoe escape the ship. After fighting these native bug aliens, Nolan tries giving it to Oliver to eat, and our stubborn boy refuses to eat them, and we learn here that they've been on this planet for at least weeks now. Nolan wakes Oliver up to train, and he trains with Oliver like he once trained with Mark right after Mark got his powers. And it's actually kind of cute because in season 1, episode 1, we see that Mark wakes up tired but still excited to kind of train, unlike Oliver. But the difference is that Mark and Oliver began their journeys very, very different. Very, very different beginnings, because for one, you know, Mark had a dad to train him. Oliver just had his older brother. His older brother only when he wanted his dad. This hurts. Back with Alan and Zoe, they manage to escape, but not without being seen by the Viltrumites. As they try to outrace the Viltrumites, Alan helps Zoe escape and takes on the 2 himself. Even though he's putting up a fight, Alan gets stronger every time he dies, but Zoe doesn't know that. Luckily, Zoe returns with the space racer and he blasts that gun. The funny part about this is it doesn't really happen for a minute in the comics, but when it does, the first guy that gets it is this guy. That blast shoots through the Viltrumite and then through the spaceship, and it's literally insane. Alan makes it back to the Coalition, and there waiting for him is my favorite character in all of Invincible. It's Battle Beast. I love him and his never-ending search for murder and glory.
You promised me more battle, more glory, more worthy opponents, more!
When we're back with Oliver and Nolan, Nolan has a beard now, and so does Mark, because they've been there too long. After a small heart-to-heart with Oliver about the Viltrumites and Andressa and his love for Oliver, we get a montage of how everything's going. Battle Beast is tearing through Viltrumites. Meanwhile, Mark is healing, Oliver is getting better at training, and the Coalition of Planets is taking back more territory from the Viltrumites. I really like that in this montage, we see Oliver and Nolan have a near normal father-son experience of fishing, except, you know, it's in space, so it has to be with a space monster. We learn that as the Coalition are liberating other nations from Viltrumite rule, they've gone ahead and joined their cause, so their numbers are growing and the Viltrumites are weakening. And Nolan and Oliver have this little conversation.
I made some new friends for a while, but then I just outgrew them. It had this tank full of lobsters. There was one in there that was beautiful. It made me feel, I don't know, fizzy inside.
We saw Oliver a while back sneaking out to hang out with his friends at night, and this could be what he's referring to at the beginning, the friends that he outgrew. But the little story about being attracted to a lobster is probably because his people look similar to lobsters. They're more kind of like praying mantis, but like Oliver might just be attracted to things with a thorax, who knows? Also, it's very praying mantis to eat the thing that you're attracted to, you know what I'm saying? Back with Thetis and the Coalition Council, we see this motherfucker do something, and he's lowering the defense grid, and all of a sudden a blast comes down on their headquarters, and he's the fucking mole. They've been looking for this mole forever, and it's this guy. It's always the guy in the chair. It's always the man in the chair. Before the explosion on the ground, we see a bunch of random people of Telescria, but we also see this vibrant pattern that's very similar to Eve's broken powers. I don't know if it's important, but I'm flagging it regardless, because with time and everything else in this weird show in this universe, watch in the future that have been something that had to do with Eve. The first Viltrumites we see fly down is Anessa's bitch ass, then Krieg, and then Lucan. They are tearing this planet up. And like I mentioned earlier, majority of these people survived their planets being destroyed by Viltrumites, only to survive and die later by the Viltrumites. That is horrible, diabolical, insane. Krieg is just running through people, and Space Racer, where's your fucking gun? Where are you at? Someone please stop this man. All hell's breaking loose. Zoe's almost finished, but saved by Alan, thank God, until she swooped up. Thetis and Krieg go at it. Mind you, the lasers are still tearing up this planet. Anessa is fucking up Zoe, and then she gets the hand prepared. This is a stance that the Viltrumites get into before they shove that hand through a person, and thank Thank God, Lord have mercy, Mark, Nolan, and Oliver finally show up. Oliver and Mark take down the Viltrumite spacecraft, and again, thank God. Thragg dives out of the ship in time to get Argyl's skull and calls the rest of the Viltrumites back to retreat, the ones left behind of course, which aren't many. They even left their slaves behind, the slave soldiers. Back down on Telescria, they start saving the remaining citizens, and Thetis still has some Viltrumite in him. Alan is really mad that he calls this huge loss of life a minor setback. You can take the man out the Viltrumite, but you can't take the Viltrumite out the man. It doesn't really make sense, but you kinda get it. After learning that that bitch was the traitor, there's only so much they can do right now. That is until Thetis learns that Thragg is calling the Viltrumites all back. Nolan gives Thetis this look here, and he's been conditioned to really hate the betrayer, and it looks like he still doesn't trust him, or at least he has this animosity towards him. We then get a look back at Conquest's grave, and they made us think that Conquest might come out bursting out of there alive, but he doesn't. Thank God. And that's the end of episode 6. And by the end of this episode, it's kind of like, where do we even go from here? Telescria is destroyed. And while the coalition should be coming together to figure out their next move, they're clearly not on the same page. You've got Alan and the others mourning the massive loss. And then you've got Thetis, who's already ready to jump back into war. And that's where things are going to start getting really concerning, because the more desperate the coalition gets, the more they're going to have to reckon with the fact that their leader is a Viltrumite, and Thetis might be willing to use the new Scourge virus with or without their full support. So what is the next step in this war? Because at this point, it's not about who's the biggest or strongest anymore, it's about who's willing to go the furthest. And if Thragg showing up to Telescria and slaughtering innocent people is the bar, how low does this bar have to go, especially when the coalition was already struggling with the numbers of casualties it took just to gain ground? So if this is what it looks like now, what happens when they decide to escalate this? Oh my gosh, comment down below with your thoughts, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Paulo Bianca, who supports us at the executive producer level. A big thanks to Gina Ippolito for helping me write this bad boy and researching for this bad boy, and also a huge thanks to Studio Tech Brian Kim behind the camera, and my new Rockstars editors Joshua Stephen Hurd and Abby Freel, and all the supporting editors for their work on this video. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons, subscribe to all the channels in the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys for episode 7.